My name is Moses Sali, a teacher of physics and mathematics. We are visiting your farm today to find out more, to learn more how farmers use the knowledge of statistics in their business. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Sali, my name is Chibuka. I'm a teacher of economics at Gaza High School. You are most welcome to Chibuka Poultry Farm.
Thank you so much. We are here to learn more how farmers use the knowledge of statistics in their business. So tell us more how you joined farming and the good you have found so far in farming.
All right. It has been a long journey, but initially it was not my dream to be in farming practically. I started teaching at Mengo Senior School, and I would also go to King's College Budo to help them in managing their school farm. At the same time, enter the class, teach economics. After a short period of time, I came to Gaza High School as a teacher of economics, and that's where I found something commonly known as the farm camp, which was initiated or introduced by Mr. then our deputy head teacher. Now, through the various farm camps that I attended, I gathered a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, a lot of information in the different departments of farming. And when I interacted with poultry farmers, I remember Mr. Dunn taking us to some poultry farmer, in one of the farm camps. So I started picking interest in poultry farming, and I made it a plan, I made it a program, and I shared it with my wife, and we agreed to enter into poultry farming. But at the same time, as Mr. Dunn kept on advising us, teachers being entrepreneurial, I am a teacher of economics and probably generally a teacher of business. It is very exciting to see principles of economics working or actually failing to work. And you can, as a teacher of economics, you can appreciate that only if you practice these principles.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chibuka. Yes. How long have the hens been in egg production, and how has the size of the eggs varied over time?
Very good. End of this week, they will be making the 4th week since they started laying eggs. So they started laying eggs 3 weeks back. This is the 4th week since they started. And they started laying eggs at 4 months and 2 weeks strictly. And that is the ideal time, according to the experts in the business. That is on condition that you have fed them well. And I have observed the variation in sizes. For instance, when they started laying eggs, this was the size. This was the size. This is called the starter. The poultry farmers call this one starter. So this was the size. That is the first week of their laying, or the first 2 or 3 days. And the size kept on increasing. So you have this size, or this size, okay? So over time, so by the 2nd week, we had this kind of size. Now, the size has also continued to this kind of size. You can clearly see difference. And now, we have this size. That means that those are the first hens that started laying. So we have this size. So you can see the variation in the sizes. So the size keeps on enlarging as they continue laying. Okay. Yes. So that is the variation in the sizes. You can clearly see.
So how has that impact on the cost of a tray of eggs?
Well, of course, in economics we studied the market. We studied the market, we do market research to try and find out the prevailing price, the market price. Now, by observation, you realize that this big size, okay, cannot go at the same price as the other small size. But the market price of this size is 10,000 shillings per tray. And the market price of the starter size is between 8,000, 8,500. Now, but of course, remember, we are in now a partial lockdown countrywide. That means that the demand for the eggs is still generally low. It is steadily increasing because the lockdown is being lifted. That means that eventually the market price is going back to the initial price, which is 12,000 shillings per tray, and that is this big size. That means that then you will have a tray of startup going for around 9,000 or 9,500 shillings. So the bigger size for now goes at 10,000 shillings per tray because of the economic condition in the country with this coronavirus.
Yes, thank you so much. Now, the fact that you are at a stage of egg production, we are interested in finding the average weight of the eggs produced in your farm weekly, starting from now.
Yes.
And we would love to, we came with an instrument called a beam balance,
Okay.
that can help us to measure the weight of the eggs, and we are going to do that right now. Is it possible to provide us with a tray of eggs,
Yes.
such that we can find the average weight of the eggs you are now producing in your farm?
Yes, sure. Yes, I can.
Thank you so much.
A triple beam balance is used to measure masses precisely. It has a pan where the object whose mass is required is placed. It has 3 beams, and each beam measures in grams. Each beam has a slider that is used in the determination of the mass. Before measuring the mass of the object, move the 3 sliders on the 3 beams to their leftmost positions. With the object on the pan, adjust the 3 sliders one at a time until the balance reads 0. To find the mass of the object on the pan, simply add the numbers from the 3 beams corresponding to the positions of the sliders.
Yes, these are the masses of our eggs in grams that you have obtained. So we are going now to sample out 10 masses, and we are going to go through how we can find the average mass of our eggs. So the first value is 70.3. We have another value is 69.9. Another value we have is 59.1, 63.9, 82.7, 59.4, 73.7, 66.0, 60.2, and then 62.4. So this gives us a total of 667.6 divided by 10, which we then divide by 10, we get 66.76. Now that we have found the average mass of the eggs currently at the farm from the sample of 10 we have picked,
Yes.
my question here goes, what is the importance of monitoring the mass or the weight of the eggs, which is reflected by the size of the eggs?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sari, for that question. I think as a farmer, it is important to monitor the mass or the weight of the eggs, because eventually it will determine the price in the market. The nature of consumers who buy these eggs use observation to look at the size of the eggs. Not so much of the weight, but the size. But as a farmer, I need to determine the mass, because eventually the bigger the size of the egg by visual observation, the bigger the weight. And that means that it will also have an impact on the price in the market.
Thank you so much.
So that means that the bigger the size of the eggs, the higher the price of the 12 eggs.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chibuka. Does nutrition impact on the average size of the eggs? For here we have seen that it's about 66.76. So is there a possibility that nutrition can impact on this, whether it can go down or increase?
Really very much so. The nature of poultry business is that the way you feed the birds will determine the output. So if you don't give the birds the quality feeds they need to have, you will have that consequence in the size of the eggs. That means that they will lay very small eggs even when they have laid the eggs for a long period of time. These birds have just laid eggs, now they are coming to 1 month, and it is an incremental process, meaning that as we continue feeding them, for example, you have seen those bigger sizes. It means that those are the birds that started at the very beginning, started laying the eggs. So through the process and feeding them well, I am optimistic that the sizes will get to that bigger size. So if you don't feed the birds well with the quality feeds, you will have very small sizes of the eggs, and consequently that will affect the price in the market. And as a farmer, you will definitely make losses, because you will be buying feeds at the market price. You will be getting very small sizes of eggs which cannot go at the market price of eggs. That means that you cannot break even, you cannot recover the money you have invested. So it is very important that one, you get quality feeds from credible sources to avoid duplications, because they will eventually affect the nature of they will affect the growth of the birds as well as the output of the eggs.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chibuka.
Now I have 512 birds. Now these housing units are the ones I focus on. Now you realize that each cage has 16, this side alone has 16 housing units. Now times 8, those will be 128 housing units. Now I compute 10% of those, or 15%, depending on what I've chosen. If I want 10%, I'll compute 10%. Those will be the housing units I will consider. Now, I need the sampling interval. You get that? Because whatever I do, the selection should not be biased at all for me to get proper output. Now, what I do, I'll get the 10%, which is around 12 housing units. Then, once I have the 12, then of course the interval will be what I want, divide by that. Okay? The 128 divided by 12. That will be around 10. That will be my interval. Now the issue comes in. How random should my starting point be? I get my little kids here, send one to their mother. I tell mommy to give us a note. Any note. Now on that note, there are numbers. I will select, remember, the mother is speaking, I have no influence on which note is coming down. So I'll just look at the note the kids are bringing to me, look at the number, the first number, for as long as that number is between 1 and 4. Why 1 and 4? I have so much interest in at least starting with this cage. So if now I choose that number, maybe it's 3, I'll say that this is my first 1,000 unit. So 1, 2, 3. I'll start from here. Remember my sampling interval is what? 10. This I mark here. This must participate in computation of the what? The average monitoring. Then I count 1, 2, 3, 10. I select the second one. And so on. I come back until when I get my 10 units. So you realize that you do it randomly, it gives you a true representation of what? Your weights. I do the same thing on the other side.
So do you think the local farmers who are not mathematicians, one can explain that tactic to them of sampling and they understand it?
Of course, now when we get into the details of why we should do it and how we should do it, they can understand it. Actually, they can understand it.
Because
why?
Those who went to school.
Yes.
They did not.
They don't know why they...
practical.
Yes.
Because they know the practical effect. Because if you don't attain the weight, it means that your birds are going to start laying at 6 months. Now just look at these two farmers. Farmer A, his birds are laying at 4 months. Farmer B, the birds are laying at 6 months. Even by the time the other farmer, the bird starts to lay, he's already in loss. Are you getting that point? Yes. So it is a very, very, very important weapon I have discovered on the farm, and actually it is the key underlying factor for this business. You can't